thanks everybody for coming out. I'm Chris Hensley. I'm a financial advisor with Merrill Lynch, but I'm here today as the president of the Houston Midtown chapter of the Society for Financial Awareness, or S.O.F.A. S.O.F.A is a nonprofit 501c3 educational speakers bureau, and our mission is to fight financial literacy. And we do that by going out to different organizations, different associations, different groups, anywhere people already congregate and provide financial education seminars as well as health and wellness workshops. I'd like to ask your help today. There's a seminar evaluation sheet that I usually do anytime I speak, and some of the stuff's not applicable on there, but the feedback portion is. And so if you could, I'd like you to fill those out for me today. And then at the very bottom, I'd like to ask your help as we go through today's presentations and you're introduced to other nonprofit groups that are here in Houston doing some of the same things that we are. If it jogs your memory of groups that you might think that we would be appropriate to speak at, please refer us, refer all of the groups. Let us know. Don't keep this a secret, and let us know. So let's go ahead and get started here. Today's lunch is financial literacy from the boardroom to the classroom. And so the first thing that we got to ask is, well, what is financial literacy? Financial literacy is simply one's knowledge of finances. Another way to put it is it's a skill set that allows somebody to make intelligent, informed decisions about your finances. What it's not, financial literacy is not an advanced degree in accounting. What we're talking about when we're talking about financial literacy is the day-to-day things that get us by. If you think about it, none of us really had a class, except for Steph, that taught us how to balance our checkbook, that taught us how to make intelligent decisions about our retirement, or even something as simple as budgeting. So when it comes to financial literacy, there's really two myths out there that we've got to know about and we've got to work towards dispelling. The first myth is that we can be taught financial literacy from our parents. Well, sometimes, if we've got parents that have good financial habits, if we've got parents that maybe come from a financial services background, but often our parents don't have those skills and don't have those behaviors. And so what you find happens is you'll see generation after generation making the same mistakes. So that's the first myth when it comes to financial literacy. The second myth is that you can learn financial literacy through the school of hard knocks. And this one always turns out to be wrong. Most financial mistakes that we make, we end up, and these can be some of the most costly, expensive mistakes in life, we end up making the mistakes and we don't realize we're in the middle of them until we're already there. So often when that happens, it's too late to make any changes. And then what we want to do is look towards raising money smart kids. So we want to look towards the future. As a speaker at S.O.F.A, I've gone out to different companies, different organizations. I've been out to universities. But when we've gone out to universities, we've done financial education classes for the teachers. We've done it for the faculty members, but we've never extended that out to the students or the parents of the students. And so for Financial Literacy Month, and this, for anybody who's not aware of it, President Obama passed a proclamation that April is Financial Literacy Month. In observance of that, S.O.F.A is extending those classes to local area Houston schools. And we partnered with Laura's groups, who you're going to hear from a little bit later here, to actually go into those schools. It's not as easy as we thought. Laura's been doing this for a while, and there's a curriculum, and it's hard to even get their attention right now with all the testing that's going on in the schools. But our goal here is really to announce a fundraiser to get a donation to make towards that local school. And when we make the donation, it's going to be with strings attached. So we're going to raise funds, and then we're going to donate those funds to the local school, but then we're going to request to do financial literacy classes for the faculty, the teachers, the students, and the parents. And so that's really what we're here today for, is to announce that, to announce those efforts. And to do that, it's going to require work. And when it comes to work, there's a story that I like to tell and share with you guys, and it's a story of two frogs. And these two frogs are brothers, and they live in a pond. And they rarely will go outside of the pond. Sometimes they'll hop out if they're exploring or if they're hungry or something like that, but most of the time they try to stay as close to the pond as they possibly can. Well, one night, they got really, really hungry, and so they decided to leave the pond. So they hopped out of the pond, and they came across a farm. And this farm, it turned out, was a dairy farm. And so they came across a barn on the farm, and inside that barn was a bucket of cream. And so the two brothers, they got together and they said, boy, that looks pretty appetizing. So they hopped into the bucket of cream, and they started drinking all of the cream. And they got really kind of bloated, and they had never had cream before. This was very rich, it was very filling. They were just very happy, but then they got really sleepy. You know, if you've had a big meal, you get kind of sleepy. And then it dawned on them that it would not be as easy to get out of this bucket as it was to get into the bucket. The bucket was kind of had sides that slanted out, and it was covered with all this cream, and they were in there just at such an angle where they couldn't rear back and hop out of the bucket. So the second brother, who was a bit of a pessimist, he said, oh dear, this looks like this might be our fate. We might be stuck in this bucket and we might die here. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die like a frog with dignity, and I'm going to face my homeland. And so he looks towards the pond. Well, the first brother says, stop, wait, don't do that, don't give up. I'm not going out without a fight. We were born as tadpoles in the pond, and nobody would have expected us to grow legs and jump around on land, but we did. Don't give up. So the second brother looks at the first brother and he says, sadly, I'm sorry, brother, there is no miracle for frogs. And then he lets out his last gasp of air and just kind of sinks to the bottom of the bucket. So the first brother says, well, that's not me. I'm not going to give up. And so he starts kicking and thrashing and swimming. And he's kicking and thrashing and swimming. He's kind of going in these ridiculous circles, just hopeless circles, until his legs are just sore, just completely sore from swimming around. And at that point, something happens. Or something doesn't happen, rather. He doesn't sink to the bottom. He puts his foot out and he realizes that there's something firm there, and he's on the top of a big ball of butter. And to kind of give you some visuals of that, it's kind of a bad scene. His brother's legs are sticking out the top of the ball of butter like this. And so he jumps onto his brother's legs, jumps out of the bucket, and hops away alone but alive to live the next day. So when it comes to financial literacy, when it comes to community development, about reaching a goal, when I've told this story before, some people say it's about faith in miracles. And if you pray long enough, something's going to happen. Well, that's a good takeaway. But my takeaway from it, it's about work. And it's about doing work and getting results. And sometimes when you're trying to reach a goal, something as important as financial literacy, when you're doing community development, when you're doing that work, you get tunnel vision and you don't see the end. But if you put that work in, if you work towards that goal, you will reach your goal and you will get your results. And with that, we're going to talk about today's call to action and why we're here. S.O.F.A and the groups that we're working with, we're raising funds throughout April to donate money to a local HISD school. We need your help to do this. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. The first one, well, you can make a donation. That would be great. We'd love to have you make a donation. Every donation is going to get us closer to that goal, but not everybody can make a donation. So what can you do if you're not going to make a donation? Well, there's the most huge thing that you can do is help us get the message out and help us spread the word. And so that's what I'm asking you guys to help us with. One way to do that is to host a financial literacy event at your company. For my organization and for Laura's and for some of the other groups here today, financial literacy is not just in April. This is a year-round thing for us. And so if you know of any companies, organizations that you feel like something like this would be beneficial, let us know. The second thing here is if you have a PIN, there's a website for the donation to make the donation at. But really, the strongest thing that you can do is to help us spread the word through social media. And it says leverage social media, forward the link to your friends, your family, your coworkers, and help us spread the word. Like us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And you've heard that with a bunch of marketing stuff. You get kind of just bombarded with the call to like us on Facebook. But that's huge. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called The Tipping Point, and it's about small things making big things happen. So I know today when some of you leave, some of you are going to do this and some of you aren't going to do it because you're going to think, well, what does the one person do? What difference does one person make? But there is a number, a certain number, that if we hit that many people, it could go viral. And we could really get the message out. So that's what I'm asking you to help us with. Before it was called Going Viral or The Tipping Point, it used to be called the Fire Brigade. And the Fire Brigade was when somebody would ask for help. It was when their house was on fire. And they would go to the neighbor's house and they would knock on the door. And they would say, my house is on fire. And that neighbor would grab a bucket and they would run maybe 2-3 houses down, however far it was, and they'd knock on that neighbor's door and they'd say, hey, his house is on fire. And they would keep doing that until they hit a source of water. And then they would form a line in a brigade, and everybody would pass that bucket until they were able to put the fire out. Well, when it comes to our finances, when it comes to our future and our children, our financial house is on fire. And we're asking your help to help us get the message out. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over. I got kind of my favorite quote here. It says, be the change you want to see in the world. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to the next speaker.